Hey there, friend. You are listening to Flip the Switch podcast. This is Leah Marie, your host, where we talk about things you can't find on YouTube, search up on Google, or even ask Siri. As you listen here, you're going to be jumping into interviews with influencers who create consistent six-figure earning entrepreneurs from a variety of industries. If you have ever wondered how to get consistent six-figure years or even months in your business, then you are in the right place. We all know that anything and everything we have ever done has been done mentally before it was ever done physically. Even if it was on the subconscious level, the body must follow the mind. So I say, let's apply this universal law to business and be successful mentally, then allow the strategies to take us there physically. Meaning you have fulfillment and live your purpose every day, and you do this guilt-free. I have been working with entrepreneurs for over 2 decades now, and there is an indisputable trend that can be found. Allow me to let you in on a little secret. It's mindset. Mindset is the foundation. It is the deciding factor, not resources, influence, time, money, or even the talents or skill set. A little bit of background, I'm a coach specializing in removing subconscious self-sabotage in entrepreneurs. I do this through a system I've developed combining, but not exclusive to, CBT and NLP. You can check me out over at masterofme.ca after the show. But for now, why am I here? Because I have what you need, and that's why you're here too. As you stick around and show up each week, you'll get direct access as I interview the real deal creators. We're talking to the ones who have systems that work, that have produced multiple six-figure earning entrepreneurs that do this yearly and even monthly in a variety of different industries. And most importantly, we will dive into the mindset that is the catalyst inside fueling these successful strategies. I can't wait to get started. Now let's jump in today's podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome to another podcast episode of Flip the Switch. I'm so excited about our guest today. We've got Kinsey Machos, and she is going to be just telling us some very exciting and interesting things about how she creates her six-figure earners. And I am excited to jump right into this. So before I bring her in and we start the chit chat, let me give you a little bit of background. Kinsey is a recovering people pleaser, a self-sabotager, and a corporate hustler. So she helps entrepreneurs now create and execute magnetic marketing and build expert brands so that they can get known, seen, and heard online. So I'm going to jump right into this. She's going to give us a little bit more background about the deeper part, about how all that came about. And I'm going to let her tell that story because I just love it when it comes from the own person, right? You can just feel it across the camera. So if you guys are listening to this and you want to get the visual, you can always jump in on the YouTube video of this as well. But Kinsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Leah, for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you and your listeners. So fun. So I have, where to even begin about my journey, right? If we were to condense this in a nutshell, I would really classify myself as that overachiever. I came just sort of from a different background, and I had committed to making really a life and where I didn't have to, right? That idea of not having to vacation for your life. And I had that in my mind, but traditionally, the only way I knew was go to college, get a job, and hustle your face off, right? And this is really the only thing that was exposed to me at the time. And so I followed the traditional method of climbing that corporate ladder. I got my master's in business administration. Meanwhile, we're like growing our family, right? So my husband was also in the military at the time, so he was deploying, and we were like birthing babies left and right. But after my third baby, I like birthed this new human, and then also like rediscovered myself as somebody I hadn't even recognized. What used to really fill my cup no longer fulfilled me. And I remember going back to work after maternity leave and crying every day. And granted, I'd been through this 2 other times. I'd never had that experience. And so I was like, this is like the awakening, right? Like I just knew that I was sort of ready for the next step in my life, but I had no freaking idea what that looked like. So I decided, I gave myself a year after that. I was sort of just like figuring out what's next from here and just putting my feelers out. And so I started doing some consulting in digital marketing. I had a lot of experience in project management and in the marketing space. And so I was like, how can I just leverage what I know now to step into my own business? And so there was a small overlap of running my own business and working full time, but I made that leap of faith and really just found myself in a business of my own. And it still feels a little surreal. Yeah. But now I have this lifestyle that has allowed me to really be a present mother, be a present wife, and still serve people in a way that really, really like lights my soul on fire.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like so many of our listeners, like that's their goal. Like that's what they want. They're like, how do I be, and it's especially for our women entrepreneurs, how do I be an awesome mom and an awesome entrepreneur? Like, how do I still keep my identity of me, right? And I feel like a lot of women go through that. And I can't speak for men, but I know that a lot of women go through that as they become mothers, so much of them gets turned to everything is about keeping this human, this little baby alive. And we don't even think of ourselves at all. Everything goes on the back burner and everything's about this baby and serving and everything else. And there needs, and then later a little bit, we have to figure out where is that balance for now, like filling my cup again, like, cause I still need to be me. I can't just, something feels out of balance. Right. And we want to give our best selves to our children. And so we need to be able to fill up other areas of our life to create a little bit of balance so that we have something to give. Right.
Oh, 100%.
So I love that. I love that. So, and I also love that you talked about like not creating the lifestyle to go on vacation from it. Right. Like how can I just have this place where I love to actually be in the day to day? And it's not, I call it living the nightmare to create the dream. Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I think about, there was a couple pretty dark years for me. I knew that corporate wasn't the answer for me anymore, but I was working so much. I was making really great money, right? It's like the ultimate golden handcuffs, but it felt like I had no way out. And, but I just kept making those like baby steps, like each day I was doing something that would at least get me a little bit closer to something, even though at the time I had no idea what that looked like. And it's sort of, I always hear, the middle is so messy, right? It's that nightmare. But if you just keep going, even in the unknown, like it totally is unfolding for you beautifully. It's just really hard to see when you're in the thick of it.
I love that you just said that, because I feel like a big part of what keeps us in the messy and keeps us stuck there is that we keep looking back and we keep looking around us and we've got our head on a swivel being like, oh, what's she doing? What's he doing? Like, this is supposed to be successful. That's supposed to help this way. I'm feeling like, and then we start, bringing up all the past and instead of stopping for a moment and just going, what if I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be? And that everything and all the messy around me and everything leading up to this moment that has totally sucked is actually supposed to serve me because of what I'm supposed to do next.
Yes.
Right? So like how much does that release?
Yes. Oh, so good.
And bring you into the present moment. Because if you're looking in the past, you can't you can't be looking back and moving forward. Right? And so bringing yourself into that present moment where you're like, okay, what if I stop whining and complaining and victimizing myself about, oh, I should have made this choice or should have done that or all of this stuff, coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. And then being like, why isn't my future happening? What if we just accept that maybe we're supposed to be where we are right now?
So good. I always say, like, you're not actually stuck. You're just being called to show up in a bigger way, right? That's next level. And so many people, I hate even using the word stuck because there's so much that comes up for people when they're like, I'm so stuck. And I'm like, what if you looked at it as you're shedding like your old way of being, your old ways of showing up, your old strategies, and you're being called to new strategies, new ways of showing up, you're not stuck, right? You're just journeying the progression of shedding old stuff and stepping into a new. And it really allows you to show up with such a different energy when you're like, I'm not actually stuck. Like, I'm being called to do bigger things. And so I need to show up in a bigger way.
And even just using that verbiage, right? Like, we believe what we say, right? So if you constantly are telling yourself, I'm stuck, like how are you going to move anywhere from there? Like, if everything happens mentally before it happens physically, right? And I always like to say, I don't care if you're making a peanut butter sandwich. I don't care if you are making a deal, an investment deal, or whatever you're doing, or you're onboarding a new team member, whatever it is, you have to mentally do it. The body has to follow the mind, right? The muscles, everything, even subconsciously, everything happens mentally first, and then it can happen physically. So if you're mentally constantly telling yourself, I'm stuck, there's nowhere physically for your body to go, right?
Exactly.
Or your brain. And it's that idea of, your business cannot outgrow your brain, right? And so you need to level up, like you said, you need to level up and expand upon what's happening here. And then you can start to see, oh, I'm not stuck, I'm moving, right? I love that. So tell me, okay, let's get into a little bit about this. What was the point when you realized that those baby steps was actually something? Because you had mentioned that you didn't even know what you were creating, really. You just knew you didn't like it where you were. There had to be something more that would actually fill you up again. When did you discover what that was? And then what was like the mindset shift that really made that needle moving action happen? Was it the baby steps that made it happen, or was there something else that then triggered like an avalanche type thing? Or how did those pieces come together?
Yeah. So there was one, like, so every day I was reading, I was journaling, right? I was like trying to ask myself better questions. What is my next step need to be? Like, what do I need to be doing? And slowly, like, I always have had people ask me to do their social media for them and their marketing. And I just, like, there was so much resistance that came up for me there. I didn't have any interest in doing that. But I was like, what is the opportunity here? What could really light me on fire? And I had a multi-million-dollar organization contact me and ask them to run their digital marketing strategy. And I was like, then all the light bulbs went off, right? Like, well, what if I'm not doing social media, but what if we look at this comprehensively from a digital marketing perspective? Because I've been studying it for so long. And what if I went down that route? And so that was really the turning point for me, where someone was like going to pay me for this skill, right? That I loved doing and was really good at. And so that was the switch where I was like, okay, like, game on. And it was about 6 months after they hired me, or that I contracted with them, that I left my corporate job. And from that point, I was really leaning into my audience. Something that I really teach my own clients is like how to curate an audience. How do you connect with people? How do you build a network? I was doing that unintentionally for so long that I was like, this is actually a skill. This is what people need. And so by the time I actually had something to sell my audience, it was like selling like hotcakes. And so it made that transition easier, if you will, because I had kind of a warm audience to sell to. And then I started to just really lean into this marketing space and really branding and how to show up as that expert brand online.
So how did you accidentally create the swarm market? Because I feel like that's something that people are intentionally like just hitting their head against the wall with, right? Like, they're intentionally creating a warm market and they're hitting their head against the wall. So how did you accidentally create a warm market? And then, right? So what did that look like?
So about 5 years ago, I stumbled upon network marketing. And with I don't know, like, there's so many network marketing companies right now, but network marketing, I dabbled my toe in a little bit, just kind of figuring out the game. And at that time, it was, it was social selling. So I really started to learn and study social selling and what that really meant. And I saw a big gap in the industry where it was like sell, 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 sell. It was like business and business. And even in today's industry, even when you go to networking groups or you hop on webinars or whatever, it's strictly business. And I saw this huge opportunity to really build awareness around me as a brand. And so I just started sharing parts of my journey, my stories, allowing people to connect with me. I integrated live video into that strategy. And so people like felt like they knew me, and I would get messages from people like, just saying that they were thankful for me, sharing my stories. They really connected with it. It changed the way that they, did something or thought about something. And so I integrated more of the personal brand, really like me as the brand, and elevated myself as the leader. Secondly, I think one of the biggest mistakes I think people do is look at their audience at scale, when really there's like heartbeats behind each of those people. And so I take time to connect with people one-to-one. Go figure, right? It's like having private conversations, having virtual coffee chats, going out in my community, having local, networking opportunities, and sitting belly to belly, having conversations with people. And people overlook those because it doesn't scale, but truly those things that you don't think are scalable will scale your business. And so this beautiful blend of me just showing up as a personal brand and sharing my stories in also having connection and conversations with my people that were hanging out with me, it just exploded my business.
Awesome. So I love this on so many levels. I can't even tell you. But so part of the thing that I love, one of the things, I can't even remember exactly what the word was, that I actually taught a class where I talked about that, how it's not, oh yeah, I know what it is. So it's not a numbers game, it's people's aim, right? Mm-hmm. And how you go from numbers to names, to faces, to friends, and the sequence that it takes and all of that stuff. So I love that you brought all of that part into this. And that's actually where like long-term growth happens. Like you can do the sales and you can do all of the other stuff, but and you might get the numbers, but you're not getting the relationships, and the relationships is what keeps them coming back, right? And so you might have a one-time sale, but what does that matter when you could have a customer for life, right? So like you said, it's doing things a little bit differently that everyone else maybe doesn't agree with, but it actually is what creates the continual growth. So I love that you brought that up. So now I'm curious, how did your journey change from that point? So essentially you started sharing your journey, creating this personal brand, and people inside of the network there were just following along and started to love and trust and know you. And then when you're like, this is what I'm launching, they're like, I want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. So have you niched into that sector then where you do a lot of your marketing for network marketers, or is yours just across the board, or where did it go from there?
Yeah, my brand has definitely evolved, and this is so fun to share because I think so many people, A, they get so afraid to niche down, and B, they think that they can evolve from there. My niche actually, so I was doing digital marketing for a couple other companies, right? So I really branched out from a B2B perspective in digital marketing. But meanwhile, I met my audience where they're at. I was getting all these questions of like balancing motherhood and work and marriage, and like, because I was so open about my journey, I saw this opportunity to like show them the way that I really created a life that I loved, and really optimizing all these realms of my life. And so I launched this program at the time. I don't sell it anymore, but it was called Unleash, and it was really how to show women how they can step into the fullest potential of themselves, so they can show up for themselves, but also their marriage, their family, their career. And so I did that for about 6 months. I launched that over and over again, and that really put me, I guess, on the map for this digital program. And then because of that, I had people contacting me like, hey, I want to do something similar to what you're doing. How are you doing it? So then I had a private clientele of like helping them build their online business. And so I was kind of serving two different niches, but it was very organic, right? I was really, again, leaning into my audience, listening to the things that they were needing from me. And so I evolved more from that, the working mom space to business, online business and marketing. And even from there, I've really niched down into the marketing space and helping people build more of that brand awareness and brand presence online.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about your clients that come in. What is the mindset that they come in with, that they kind of enter your world with, and how do we put that up against kind of like the new belief that they have that's working for them on the outside. So coming in and exiting, what is the needle mover that is like the first thing that you're like, okay, foundationally, how do we get your mindset in the right spot? Because like we talked about a few minutes ago, right? Like the body follows the mind. So I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that everything starts again, like where you start figuring out where their brain's at, where their Machos brains are at, how do they get those on the same page, all of that stuff. So give us a little bit of details around the mindset needed to make that shift from struggling, trying to be a six-figure earner to someone who's not only a six-figure earner yearly, but can actually transition into creating that monthly.
That's great. I love this question because I do believe mindset is like 95% of the game here. And even if you have all the right strategies, if you don't have a groomed mindset, those strategies won't set you up for success. So we spend a lot, my clients and my students don't know it yet, but we do, when they come into my programs and services, we do spend a lot of time in the mind. I get them in that right frame of mind. And a lot of times people come in thinking they're not an expert yet. They don't know enough yet, and they need to know more in order to serve their people. And so we work around a lot about this idea of being an expert and really getting them into the frame of mind that you already know everything you already need to know. And you already have had enough experience in order to serve somebody right now with where you're at. And so really allowing them to see big picture, stop consuming more information, right? Stop hoarding all the knowledge. You need to show up and start serving today. So that's one big piece. And I think again, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I love that. You just totally pointed on the point that it really comes down to redefining their belief on being an expert, right? So they have to redefine what their belief is on being an expert. So I love that because, yeah. Okay, keep going. Yeah, juicy, you guys.
Yeah, when you have the belief, so people will never trust you as the expert unless you believe it for yourself first. So we're really getting them in that space of like, you're already an expert. So we check that off. And then secondly, it's like, hey girl, like I'm going to give you the strategies, but here's what you need to know. It's never going to matter unless you understand what makes you tick, really unpacking the inner magic that you already have. And you can start leveraging that today. And so I think everybody comes in, right? And I'm this way too. Like I hire coaches and I purchase programs because I want to know the strategy. And so people come in and they're like, give me the strategy. But I can't, no matter what strategy I give you, it won't matter, because if you don't understand how you want to show up for your people, then it's irrelevant. So we work a lot around this be, do, have concept. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's like, who do you need to be today in order to build the business that you want? And it's not the other way around, right? It's not having a six-figure business and then you can start showing up as a six-figure business owner. So we're like, what do you need to be? How do you need to be showing up today in order to build that, but being her today? And so we work a lot around that mindset of showing up as if, right? As if all these things have already happened.
I love it. That is all of these pieces. They're totally in alignment with the things that I work on with my clients as well. And so that's why I'm like, seriously, like so giddy about this. Because it's so true, right? It's so true. We often come in and look at the six-figure year business or six-figure a month business, and we're like, well, what can it give me? Oh, I can get this and this and this. And we create all of these huge lists of what we want to get from it. And we don't even stop to realize, okay, but what does it need from me? Like what do I need to give it in order to get, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay. So after they have redefined essentially, okay, this is the belief that comes from, okay, where I'm coming from. I need to change the belief so that I'm coming from the right place. And then I need to not only come from the place, I need to now know what I need to give this dream so that I can show up and be that person. And I love part of that as well, because it gave me the analogy as you were talking about it. I started picturing, because I have a son that is going to be 16 next year. And I started picturing, like, for him, he's all like, okay, give me the keys, mom, give me the keys, right? Like, he wants to do the thing. Like you said, he wants the strategy, like, just give me the keys and let me go. I want to get in the car. I want to feel the steering wheel in my hands. I want to feel the pressure under my foot. I want to smell the car interior and the McDonald's on the seat or whatever, right? Because I got it myself. Like, they get all of this stuff in their head. And we, as the parents, are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Before you get the keys, do you know that the vehicle needs to have oil put in it and oil checks so that you don't completely like kill your engine? Do you know that it needs insurance? Do you know the rules of the road? Do you know, right? Like, all of the pieces that make that dream actually happen. Right. And so, like you said, like, we come in just like little kids wanting to show up in the already doing and having stage. And then us as coaches need to unpack all of the pieces that actually make that happen. Right. And so,
Exactly.
loving this. Okay.
Analogy. I love that.
Where do you go from here? What is the next step for you once you've kind of identified those things? Or, I guess, more importantly, what is the next step for them? Because they're the ones building their business. They're the ones that have to show up every single day. So what's the next step that they go through in their mindset and solidifying these pieces so that they have consistent growth? Because your big thing is about building the lifestyle, right? And then building like the business to fit it, right? Versus like, oh, I'm going to basically, run myself into the ground, and then I'll basically just dump all the money into bringing my life back together and putting all the pieces back together, right? So what's the gap there? Like, how does that part connect?
Yeah, so I have a framework for, I call it the magnetic business, right? So it's a combination of really attracting the things that you want in your life, but also the clients, right? I don't believe in the chase mentality. I do think building that magnetic brand, building that magnetic business allows you to show up in such a different way, which then builds that awareness around you. And so in this framework, we really set one of the first steps, aside from the mindset, is what's your brand positioning? Really thinking about what makes their personal brand different than others, but also within their niche that they're building this business around. How do you want to serve them? Who are they? And really getting to the core of those people. I think it's more than demographically knowing your people. It's really understanding her pain points, her desires in the way that she's describing them. So we do a lot of work around their brand, their niche, and really what lights them up as far as how they think about serving these people. Is that a group coaching program? Is it a course? Is it one-to-one? So we're like setting those brand foundational pieces, but also the content perspective. We do a lot around content, what kind of content to be creating, how to get known at scale without doing all the things, right? I believe that's so possible. I was using one platform for the longest time, Facebook, that's it. And I was posting once a day, sharing a story, going live like once a week. And that built my brand so organically. And I think now people are like, I need to be everywhere and I do need to do all the things. So it's really simplifying from that perspective. And then from there, like really getting people in and out of your programs and doing, we go over launch techniques and things like that. And then thinking about, okay, like how do we scale from here? Because I get all the perfectionists, the overachievers, they want to do everything themselves. And so we talk a lot about the delegation piece. What does a team look like? And then from there, what should you actually be doing in your business versus what you should absolutely be delegating? And so often people I have this like visualization of like their business, like a dog like on a leash and like dragging them around the neighborhood, right? Because they're not trained right. And this is what happens when entrepreneurs step into growth. It's just they're being dragged along by their business. So really setting up those foundational pieces so that things are operating in a rhythm, in a routine, and you're really just have that sounding board, but also that awareness. So you have that natural, organic, lead gen system, and then something to support that as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love how you have it set up so that it's part of the sequence that you work through with these people, right? So it's not like, okay, we created this and now, like, I know you're an overachiever and you're a type of person that is a go-getter and a DIYer, and I'm a control freak and a perfectionist, and so I can do all of this on my own. And you're like, okay, good, you're awesome, now run with it. But you're like, okay, put on the brakes now. The next thing that's going to take everything you've built and drive it into the ground is you. So let's put a little bit of a, and it's funny because we were talking to our kids about this the other day, about being able to lead themselves, right? And be self-led, right? Rather than, and we talked about how, like, with a horse, when you put on the bridle, right? A horse is so powerful and it can accomplish, like, it's just amazing the power that a horse has. But when we put the bridle on, we can then steer the head and direct all of that flow and all of that energy. And then we are running the show, right? We're in charge of our calendar, or we're in charge of our business. Our business is not running us, because we can create the entire thing. And then we can create, what we have done is actually created a monster, right? And we don't want to then be at the mercy of that, because we were so amazing that we created something then that became bigger than us and we can no longer even tap into, right?
Yes.
And so I love that you have part of your structure, the pieces and the elements to rein in that energy and that creativity and all of the amazing awesomeness that person has, to be able to set them up so that they have success that is manageable, right? Like you set it up so that there's a level of consistency with it, instead of being like the flash in the pan where it's like, oh, amazing, and then all of a sudden it like dies out because they have no idea how to manage it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Right? So yeah, like, and I mean, I think a lot of our clients are the same type of people. And so that's why I'm like, I can totally see what you're talking about and who this person is and what's going through their head. Mm-hmm. But, and of course that's my background and my expertise, right? Is kind of like what's in their head. So I love that we can pull these pieces together, because I think that those who are listening are going to be like, okay, I'm getting all these different bits and pieces from this. So I love that. Mm-hmm. So you've shared a little bit about, the framework that you use. You shared a little bit about the different pieces that are aspects that need to be put in place, and how setting these pieces up in the right order, right? And being able to, yes, we will get to the framework, but let's get the mindset to be able to handle the framework. Yeah. Then we go and channel and we get in and we handle the framework. And as we're in the framework and that expands, now we need to go again back to mindset. How do we handle this experience, right? Of what's coming. And then you can get into that. So I love that you've given us that little storyline to follow inside of that. Okay. Is there anything that you would say is the number one thing that has somebody like falling off the wagon or self-sabotaging inside of this realm? And then what do you do when that happens?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think one of the biggest things I see is we get attached to outcomes, attached to results, right? And so we have this idea for a launch, right? And we have the process for launching, and you decide on what kind of launch you want to do, and you have the outcome there, and you're like, they're visualizing it, and it's going to be so good, and they're sitting in those feelings of just like happiness and success and whatever, and then they do it, and it's not the results that they had anticipated. And so immediately it's like, oh, it's not working. I'm not working. This isn't working. My business isn't working, right? I'm not going to be able to serve the people that, and so they go down this spiral hole, or this rabbit hole of just limiting belief. Again, where those limiting beliefs resurface, they get in that mindset of like, I'm not good enough. And so all the things happen around, okay, and I'm stuck. So we really have to, we have to set goals. And I think it's important to visualize, okay, what do you want from this? But we have to understand that, wherever anybody is spiritually, like there's a bigger source at play, and things will unfold in the way that they need to. And so we have to be able to detach from those results that outcome and understand, okay, at a higher level, if I'm taking a 30,000 foot view from this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, like you had said. And so experiencing even that joy, those same feelings after you did something that you probably would have never done before. You probably had great results. They just weren't the ones that you had initially visualized. And so you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not even looking at what you just did, how far you've come, and allowing that to continue to move, like allowing that to be momentum for you to even push further. And so I think it's this idea of like the results, right? The outcome, like attaching to that and letting that be the indicator of quote unquote success or not. Mm-hmm. And this is where people fall off the wagon. Generally, where I'm helping them get back on the wagon by looking, okay, like what went right? And understanding that there was a lot of things that went right in this. Mm-hmm. And then also, okay, where's the room for improvement? How can we continue to use those lessons learned and moving forward? And know that truly, I believe that successful, like the gap between successful, quote unquote, successful entrepreneurs and not successful entrepreneurs is those that just keep moving and they just keep taking action and they don't let failures, quote unquote, failures, determine how they're going to continue to move forward. They just keep going and they keep going and they keep trying and they keep showing up in the energy of that being state. Who do I want to be today in order to create the results I want? And you just keep moving.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of your story, right? Like that was really your story, is you're like, I don't even know where I'm going, but I don't want to stay here. So I'm going to start moving forward and I'm going to start bringing in the pieces that I know other people who are having success are living into. I'm going to just start bringing those in, and then I'll start putting the puzzle pieces together, and then the picture will unfold as to what I'm actually going to achieve, and really stepping into that, right?
Yeah.
So those that are on video, you guys saw my daughter came in, brought me a little flower. My 7-year-old, she couldn't wait, obviously, to like 5 more minutes. But here's the important thing. Here's the thing that I love is that, like, when you're in a place of knowing who you are, when you're not attached to that outcome and the results, and you're not attached to all of those pieces of the external validation that has you breaking down and falling off the wagon, or feeling like, oh, like that just ruined this entire podcast. Now we have to re-record, whatever, right? Like, what's somebody going to think? Someone's going to think I'm a mom. It's summer vacation. My kids are home, right? Like, they're going to think, hey, guess what? My kids know that I'm available for them at some time in some place. And I recognize like that doesn't mean anything about me. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I love that for you, in talking about this space where you're talking about where people are falling off the wagon and doing all this stuff, it's because of the attachment that you said. Like, they have this attachment to the outcome, and they don't leave room for an attachment to what if the outcome's different than I expect. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Or like you said, like the zoom out. And okay, if I get this result, what does it mean about what I've done? What do I have to shift? What do I have to change? But more importantly, what does it mean about me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think so, if we can really just see this as a process, a journey of becoming, it just takes the pressure off of us to deliver on results. I just ran, so when COVID hit, my gym closed, and I'm like an avid gym goer, like it's my outlet, right? And they closed, and I'm like, oh crap, like I don't know what to do now. And one of my clients, she's a running coach, and she's like, come join, I'm gonna train you to be a runner. I'm like, okay. So I became a runner, and in that period of time, I trained for a half marathon. But of course, like all the races were closed or canceled, and so I did a virtual half marathon. And I got so into the process of just each week she gave me a training program, and this is what I was doing each week. I was so focused there in those little milestones and making sure I'm doing the things I need to be doing, that by the time I got to the half marathon, it was like oh, that's cool. Like I did a half marathon, and everybody was like, how do you feel? Like, does this feel so awesome? And I was like, I enjoyed the process so much that by the time I got there, it was just another little check mark, right? Like I just did it. And when you can totally immerse yourself in the process of just becoming a better trainer, becoming a better coach, becoming whatever that looks like, the end result, right? It's not really a destination. It's just, it's there, and you're just constantly moving forward. And it also again releases that pressure off yourself to be so results driven.
I love this that you shared that story, because it makes me think about too is that you fell in love with the process so much that in the end, the true reward was who you became through the process. And what it now meant, like the skill set and the availability, what you now can know that you can achieve moving forward, right? And so even if that half marathon wasn't available or whatever, that didn't become the culminating piece that all of a sudden was like part of your identity of, oh, I'm a half marathoner or I'm a whatever, right? Because that's all wrapped around the external validation, and you packed it full of internal validation through your process and loving the process. And you just let the universal laws of cause and effect take place. And so you found fulfillment, and you didn't need that adrenaline dump of validation from everybody else that's saying, oh my gosh, right? And so I love it, because now it's sustainable going forward. Like the other one's not sustainable going forward, because you have to then create what in order to get that adrenaline dump again, or that approval again. And that's really a bad place to come from. Like that's a dark and heavy load to bear when you put all this expectation on yourself and everything, instead of just enjoying the journey and recognizing who am I becoming through this, and letting cause and effect like land where it belongs.
So good. Yes.
I love it. Okay. Awesome. Let's do a little bit of rapid fire, because I feel like honestly, you've already given so many really awesome pieces to our audience. And so let's just get a little bit of background about some random facts that could be very fun to know about Kinsey.
So nervous.
Let's do this rapid fire. And then after we're done the rapid fire, let us know if there is where people can go to find out more about you, working with you, what you offer, all of that stuff. So if there's a website or a new launch that you have coming up or something like that, you can let us know. Actually, why don't we do that first? Let us know first, and then we'll do the rapid fire. We'll just save that. Let it tingle in the background for a moment.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually have a free group on Facebook. It's called Marketing and Launch Strategies for Coaches, Consultants, and Service-Based Entrepreneurs. And I'm in there every day, just like connecting with people and serving some value. I do weekly live trainings. So yes, I want everybody in there. I love that group. And then I have a couple of different programs and services that I offer based on where you're at in your journey. But in the fall, I'm actually launching a membership. And this is really focused on how do you curate an audience? How do you market your brand so that people know you, love you, and trust you in the most authentic way? I think it's really, really important that marketers, right? Coaches, us as marketers, we're all marketers, really understand that you don't have to be anybody else other than yourself, but you really have to let people know about your inner magic and who you are. And so in the fall, I'll be launching that, and I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah. Because we all know that fake is not scalable, right? And it, when you live in that place of unauthenticity, I don't even know if that's a word, but basically you're out of integrity of who you are. Not only is it go against everything and it shows on the body, but everybody else can feel that as well. So I love that it's all about that place. Okay. Rapid fire. Okay. Favorite superhero?
Oh, Superwoman.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Breakfast cereal. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Gosh, I don't really eat cereal, but Lucky Charms, and like only if I can have the marshmallows.
We want only Lucky Charm marshmallow cereal.
Yep.
Dry or cold, or like wet? Would you prefer?
Oh, definitely with milk.
Oh, with the milk. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I know some people that literally just want to dump their cereal in like a Ziploc and take it with them.
Oh, no, I can't eat cereal dry.
All right. Good to know, guys. Good to know. All right. What would your client say is one of your best qualities?
Oh, I feel like probably what you get is what you see is what you get, right? I really, I don't, again, authenticity, I'm pretty, yeah, I just show up and as I am, and I think people really appreciate that.
Awesome. All right. This one's going to be funny, possibly. We'll see. What would your best friend say is your worst habit?
Oh gosh. I am like the most organized person. Like I'm very unorganized in different areas of my life. So that's probably one of the things that she would say is like, Kins, like, why, like, oh, so I just redid my office. So I have these photos behind me, and they've had stock photos in them for the last like 6 months. Because I'm like, it's all good. Like, whatever. So I'm a kind of a procrastinator in that way.
Awesome, I love it. But you're prioritizing because, like, who really cares? Got it.
Well, I'm like we're in, right? So right after COVID hit, I was like, all right, like these are the three things. Like I'm a homeschooling mama, like I'm a business owner, I'm a wife, like, and everything else kind of fell by the wayside. So
I love it. I love it. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Kinsey. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think this will definitely be a podcast that is on replay for our listeners. And we will dump your links into the show description and tag you as well so that people can listen and find you there. And you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much, Leah. I so appreciate you having me here, and I look forward to continuing to connect with you.
Thanks.